Hello, and welcome to The Variety Show with me, your host, Amanda. For today's episode, I have a very special guest. He's a huge Steelers fan, and he's all the way out in California, Mr. Brent Poppen. Brent is a motivational speaker for kids as young as pre-kindergarten to as old as adults. He has also participated and placed in the Paraolympics. But not only that, he is also a writer. He's written a children's book called Playground Lessons and wrote an autobiography called Tragedy on the Mountain. So sit back and relax and enjoy this interview with Brent.
My name is Brent Poppen. I was paralyzed at 16 years old. Grew up in Long Beach, California, Southern California. Was good at baseball at Long Beach State. Good athlete. Kind of thought I had my future laid out for me, and got hurt at a church wrestling camp. Just a church camp, wrestling, just goofing off, just boys being boys. Ended up paralyzing myself as a quadriplegic. Kind of thought my life was over. I didn't know anybody with a disability, didn't know anything about the disabled world, about disabled sports. Just kind of thought, man, I'm not going to go to college. I'm not going to compete anymore. I'm not going to have a wife. Just kind of had looking down the tunnel of a black hole. And then shortly started to realize that there were athletics out there for people with disabilities. I got involved with that, and as the better I got involved with Paraolympics. I was able to qualify in two different sports: wheelchair rugby in 2004 and wheelchair tennis in 2008. Got a medal in 2004. I realized that there were great athletes in wheelchairs with disabilities, and it gave me something definitely to aspire to. And then as I was getting ready to do my third one and be my last Olympics, because that's 12 years, every Olympics is 4 years, so 12 years of training, 12 years of commitment, 12 years of traveling around the world and competing. I ended up getting a blood infection in 2010 that almost took my life, and had to spend 7 months, 24/7 in bed, two different ICU units with surgeries for 35 days, and that's where I got inspired to write the books, because I'm also a school teacher, and one of the teachers I work with, when she found out that I was going to be in bed for 7 months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just wrote me a one-line email and said, I know you're going to be in bed for 7 months. I want you to write a children's book. And I thought, this lady is crazy. I've never written a book before. I'm laying in bed with 3 IVs in my arm for 4 months. I can't even feed myself. This is not going to happen. But for some reason, I deleted the email. I just kind of forgot about it. And then after being in bed for a month, watching TV, and I was done with TV, and I just happened to come across that email again. And just out of the blue, I told my wife, I said, put the laptop on my lap. I'm going to start writing. Had no idea what I was going to write about. I got nothing but time. I got 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I wake up at 2 in the morning. I just start typing what's on my heart. Wake up at 7 in the morning, just start typing what's on my heart. And after 5 months, it ended up being this very, very long story about a little boy named Harley, who's in second grade, who's in a wheelchair and going to a new school for the first day. And so it gets into him being bullied, how he's treated because he's in a wheelchair, because he's different, how the teacher treats him, how the principal, how the staff, and then at the end, how he becomes the hero. And people always ask, well, how'd you come up with, your theme, or how'd you come up with what he was going through? And what I did took my life as an adult, because every time I get onto a new campus or in front of bankers or a corporate function I'm going to speak, I always get those same feelings, just like the little boy did getting ready to go into class for the first time. As soon as I open that door and someone introduces me, everyone's going to be staring at me. They're not going to know my background. What are they going to think about me? Are they going to treat me with respect? Are they going to bully me? Are they going to treat me kindly? Are they going to listen to me? Are they going to ignore me? And so it was what the second grader goes through, kind of paralleled what I go through on a daily, a yearly basis.
Okay, then. Yeah, I read the book, and it was great. I liked it.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And then we tried to create some questions before every chapter, just so in a classroom setting the teacher could, ask these students, think about these questions as we read this chapter. And then once they read the chapter, they could go back and answer those questions that I thought were important to what they were reading about.
Yeah, I really liked that. I thought that was awesome.
And then obviously, Tragedy on the Mountain was my autobiography. From growing up in Long Beach as a little kid to my, going through my disability and being hurt and the Paraolympics, to write the books, to going through the 7 months, 24/7 in bed and fighting for my life, up to where I was at that point when the books got published. Which to me was what saved me, honestly, from being in bed for 7 months. It gave me something to focus on. It gave me a chance to use my brain and be creative and do things I like to do. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have made it through this stuff.
Yeah, I know. That's amazing that you did, and those are both great books that you wrote, because I read both of them.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, and the way the books came about, like I said, I wrote this kid's story. After 5 months, it wasn't in a book form. It was just a Word document, small font, big margins, tiny margins, still big paper.
Okay.
It was probably 90 or 100 pages of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this from about September to December-ish. And then once I pressed save on the computer, like, all right, I got this story. I don't know if it's any good, but it's what was on my heart. 2 days later, a lady came back into my life who I dedicated to a lady named Dr. Lucille Richardson. And she didn't know I was sick, didn't know I was fighting for my life, didn't know I was in bed, and she was my hospital teacher when I was paralyzed at 16. And I haven't spoken with her in like 22 years. And she wrote me an email that just said, Brent, this is Dr. Lucille Richardson. You might remember me as Lucille Richardson. I was your school teacher when you were in the hospital. And I don't know what's going on in your life, but you've been on my heart the last couple of months. I couldn't remember your last name. And then I've been praying about it. And all of a sudden last week, Poppen. When I woke up and I just knew your last name, I Googled you. And, oh my goodness, all the stuff I found on Google. Here's my accomplishments. I went and got my doctorate. I taught at Biola. I've been a ghostwriter. I've been an author myself. And I would like to put your life story into print because I think we could change people's lives. And I wrote her back immediately and I said, well, you would never guess that you've come into my life at another time where I was going through something very difficult. And I said, other people have asked to be a part of my autobiography, but I just didn't trust them with my emotions. I didn't trust them with my heart and the stories, so I just kind of bypassed it. But I said, maybe you're the right person because you were there 22 years ago when I was in bed at 16 paralyzed. In the meantime, I have written this 100-ish page kid story that I don't know if it's any good or not. And so she emailed me back and just said, hey, well, just send it to me. And the group I work with, if we like it, we like it. And if we don't like it, we'll be honest with you so we don't waste each other's time. And I said, perfect. So I sent it off to her. And honestly, about 4 hours later, she emailed me back and said, me and everyone in my office is crying. The children's book is on the house. And once we finish that, we'll start working on your autobiography.
That's amazing.
It's one of those, I kind of equate it to, singer-songwriters. There's hundreds of thousands of good artists in Nashville that could sing and songwrite, but it's about being in the right place at the right time and the right person, either, in my case, coming in my life or seeing and hearing you, and I think that's what makes the biggest difference in the world. And she believed in it, and the first thing she said was, we love the book. Obviously, we're doing it on the house. But if we publish it like you wrote it, it's going to be a 300-page kids book, and that's not possible. So you have a lot of work to do. So she sent it back to me and said, edit it way down to what you're happy with, and then send it to me. So I spent a couple weeks and edited it down, and I sent it back to her, and I got it right back to me with laughing, saying, yeah, you're not even close. Like, keep on going. So we bounced it back and forth for a couple months till there were things that I wouldn't budge on, and I said, no, this has to be in there, because being a disabled person, if I read it and this wasn't in there, I would find it fake. So I'm not budging on that. And she would go, okay, I get it. And then there were certain things that she said as an editor, like, okay, we have to change this because it's just not grammatically correct. And so we said from the very beginning, we got to have thick skin, and we were going to bounce stuff off each other. And then over, months, we ended up with what we both agreed with was something special and playground lessons. And it was going to, it's continuing. It's going to be a series. And after that, we moved on to the autobiography, which was also, for me, it was healing and therapeutic in its own right.
Yeah, well, that's like just an amazing story of how you came to write your books, and like I said, they're both great.
Well, then I'm trying to. I love to talk, obviously. So.
Oh no, that's okay.
With tragedy, we started writing it, and we did everything over email or over the phone. Because I was still in bed, and there was no way we could get out of bed, and so thousands of questions, and she would send me processes to go through, and she just said, trust me, I know it sounds out of the box, but read this and put 100 words here, and then go back and look them up on Wikipedia. We just did all this out of the box stuff, which is great. And we got all the way up to the day I got hurt, and then I told her the day I got hurt, I don't want to do that over the phone or via emails. We need to be in person, because there's no way for me to get the emotion out that I want to get from that point forward. And she agreed. And so I said, when I'm able to travel, you'll either come to California. She lives in the Bahamas, or I would go to the Bahamas. And I said, you just stay in the Bahamas, and when I'm better, I'll come to you.
I don't blame you on that.
Yeah, and my wife was the same way. She said, perfect, support you and take a vacation at the same time.
Yep.
And so after about 8 months, when the doctor finally said, okay, Brent, I think you're going to be okay, and we went through the surgeries, and the surgeries healed, I was able to get on a plane. I went to the Bahamas, and it was just her and I with about 2 other ladies that she trusted, one that was videoing and one that was doing shorthand. And it was just like I envisioned. We were in a small room, beautiful room with homemade food from the Bahamas and a glass of wine, and the tears and the hugs and the emotions were flying for a couple days. And the last 2 sentences in the book where she says, how would you define yourself? And I say, someone who's accomplished a lot but gave more and ended up at a place higher than from which I fell. As soon as I said that sentence, she just goes, we're done. You've just finished. She goes, I didn't know if it was going to take a week. I didn't know if it was going to take a day. I didn't know if it was going to take 3 days, but I would know when we were done. And as soon as you said that, the room got quiet, and that's when the book ended.
Well, like I said, that's an amazing line, too, so no wonder she knew that was the best to end.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know, a part that didn't get in the book that I wrote, when I got hurt at 16, I had a best friend all through middle school, a kid named Tommy La Rosa, and we were connected at the hip. And when I got hurt at 16, he came to see me one day in the hospital. He only lived a couple blocks from me. I mean, he came to see me one day, and I was up in ICU. I don't remember anybody, so I don't remember him being there. But after that day, he walked down to my mom and knocked on the door and told my mom, I don't know how, all these kids could be supporting Brent. I can't see the kid that I love laying like that. And I never saw him again for about 15 years when we just accidentally ended up at the same house from a mutual friend. And so when I was finishing the book, I thought, this might be a good way to finish it. So I called him up and I said, hey, Tommy, this is Brent. We've never had any closure. I'm not mad at you. I have a very happy life. I'm accomplished. I know you are as well. But I would like just to, talk to you and make this part of the book if possible. And he said, sure. And so we met and spent a significant amount of time in Long Beach just going over what was his feelings when he saw me and how he presented to my mom and how I felt losing a friend. And it never made the book. The people involved with editing it just said it didn't fit. But I was still happy that we spent the time doing it because it was very cathartic to myself. And I think to him too.
Yeah, it was like the closure you needed.
Yeah, because now that I work at Children's Hospital, there are kids that, they lose friends because their friends are nervous, they don't know how to treat them, they think they're different. And so I wanted somebody to be able to read the book and read that portion of the book and say, man, just like Brent, I lost a friend too, and maybe they could find some comfort in how I dealt with it. But like I said, it never meant the book. It never made the book, at least not this version. But I still use the time that we were with each other to help out the families that I deal with, at children's hospitals.
Well, that's great. And it was so nice that you were able to get that closure, and then you could talk about it with the kids, too, because I know you do a lot of speaking engagements with elementary schools.
Yeah, and I take my, I think what works so well for me is I really do open my heart and lay it out for these kids. And I'm completely honest with them. And I share every part of my life that's appropriate with them, depending on the age group. And I think that's what makes the difference. And the example I'll give you is I've been doing a lot of work with inner city schools recently. And they've been phenomenal and just over the top great, which I love. And after it was a couple ones ago in Bakersfield, and the kids came up to me after the whole thing was over, and they were talking about this puppet guy that was there before me, and they were kind of down talking him. They didn't enjoy him. And I said, well, everybody's different. And I said, but what's explain to me why you didn't enjoy that. And they looked at me and they said, Mr. Poppen, because you're real and he was fake.
Oh, wow.
And that's the truth. Whether you're dealing with, I'm fortunate that I get to deal with schools where everybody has iPods and, our upper class schools, whether they're private schools or elementary or whatever. But I also deal with the other side of that where, kids don't have so much. And it's the kids that don't have so much that if you're not real with those kids, they will see through you in 2 seconds. Not that any kid won't, but if you're not, these kids are looking for love. They're looking for someone to be real with them, someone to understand them, someone who's been through something tough to connect with them. And if you come up there and try to BS them, whether it's middle school, high school, or elementary, these kids will have a disconnect and look right through you. And I kind of pride myself on, having gone through something very, very difficult and opening it up. And if I happen to cry while I was speaking to the kids, or a girl comes up to me crying, I've had a kid run from the back row of the auditorium and come up and give me a big hug in the middle of my presentation. I've had teachers leave the presentation because it was too emotional. And all those things tell me I'm on the right track.
Yeah, I can see why. And can you talk about what you talk about at your presentation some?
Yeah, and it really honestly doesn't matter whether I'm speaking. Honestly, this year was the first year where I did pre-kindergarten, so we're talking about side girls.
Oh, wow.
I've also spoken at Banker Convention. The full gamut. The basic premise is still the same, and it's about, overcoming difficult times is one of the main premises, and
Okay.
and it's easy to make the right decision when times are good.
Yeah, that's very true.
But we still expect the high school kids, the middle school kids, the bankers, the teachers, we still hold those people to a higher level and expect them to make those same good decisions even when times are tough. And I try to share with whoever the audience is that today matters. What you're doing today, what you're doing tomorrow, what you're doing in middle school, whether it's a high school kid or a banker or a top high school athlete that's going to college, the way you can put yourself today and what you learn today is going to play a role sometime down your future. And I always share with the kids, the big thing for me is everyone says I'm lucky. Oh, Mr. Poppen, you're lucky. You get to travel around the world, and you get to speak to kids, you get to write posts, you get to compete at the Paraolympics. You're so lucky, 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 lucky. And I just stop them in their tracks. And I say, I don't believe in luck. And when someone tells me I'm lucky, I say the way I define luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I always share with them when Dr. Lucille Richardson called me and said, I'm giving you the opportunity to write a book. If I wouldn't have been prepared to write that book, it would never have been written. If I wouldn't have listened in third grade, if I wouldn't have tried in middle school, if I wouldn't have pushed myself in high school and college and knew how to put a sentence together or knew how to speak or write or read, that book would have got done. There's thousands of people that want to get their books published. And if she or the publishing company would have read my manuscript and thought, this guy doesn't know how to put something together, they just move on.
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah, and so, a big thing for me is to try to get through these kids. And I always tell them that the hardest things they have to work for are going to mean the most to them. The hardest things they have to work for are going to mean the most. And I use my Olympic medal. And I have lots of friends who are in the Paralympics. I have lots of friends who are in the Olympics just because we met through training. And if those people were to give me a handful of Paralympic medals, it would be great. But I always ask the kids, which one's going to mean the most to me? The ones that were given to me or the one I had to work for? And of course, they always say the one you had to work for. And I say, that's exactly what I mean about the hardest things you have to work for will mean the most to you. And it's just being able to use those tangible experiences makes those kids understand. Of course, you don't reach every kid, but the ones that are reached, it's special.
Yeah, I can see that, and I definitely agree with the hardest things that mean the most, because going through college, it was always the things that took the most time and the most energy that when I was done, I was more proud of that than something that I would get done within an hour.
And I tell the kids the same thing. When I talk about the Olympic medal, I say it's the same for college. Someone at Long Beach State could just come to me and say, Brent, we know you're bright, and you know what, we're just going to give you an honorary doctorate or an honorary bachelor's or whatever, and that would have been nice, but that degree would not have meant the same to me as it did with me busting my tail, pushing up the hills, taking the tests, carrying the books, studying, working hard for it. It adds something to it, and when I talk to you guys, it means more to me, so I express it in a different way than if someone just gave it to me.
Yes, I agree. And plus, then you have kind of the memories to look back on. Even when things were hard, you can look back then and be like, I'm glad I got through that, and it made me better, too.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, I know you do all these presentations. Do you stay in contact with a lot of the people you present to, with the kids and adults?
I try to. I can't stay in touch with all of them. But through my website, booksbybrent.com, or if a school does a book signing or a school buys a ton of books, like Bakersfield just bought 400 and something books for their kids. All my information is on the books, and so the kids will get a hold of me on their own and email me and tell me. One last week, the kid just emailed me got hold of me on Facebook and told me, Mr. Poppen, I'm a fourth grader. You were just at my Bakersfield school. I just want you to know you flipped my world upside down and changed my life forever. And so when you hear stuff like that, and then his mom Facebooked me and said, my kid was so affected by your presentation. I didn't know anything about it. And he came home and we looked you up. And, she just went on and on talking about how her kid was affected. And, that kind of stuff means a lot to me.
I can imagine. That must be just wonderful to, get online or get something in the mail and just have that from the people you talk to.
Yeah, and I get kids that all throughout the year will email me and say, Mr. Poppen, I'm doing a presentation. I want to do it on you as someone who is important in this world. Can you please send me videos and timeline and books? And so I do all that stuff with the kids. And then when I get the grades back or I get their experience back, it's one of those things that, like I said, just fuels me to continue to do what I do. And I do my best to try to get back to the kids on my own time. I'll surprise them if I can. If I'm going through their school, driving home and I have time, I'll stop by and say hi to them on my own time. And do try to keep that door open of communication because I would like to stay in touch. And I've had kids who graduate high school and say, Mr. Poppen, would you please come to my graduation? You had a big impact on me as a ninth grader when you presented in San Diego or you presented to me in Paso Robles. And that kind of stuff is special.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how did you come about to start doing these speaking engagements?
I can honestly remember when I was 16 and I was in the hospital when I was first paralyzed. I knew at a certain point I was in a Y in my life, in an intersection where I could be angry and not do my best, or I could make the best of what I got and try to impact the world in a positive way. And I just chose the latter. I chose to be positive and have an impact on the world, and whatever it took to do that. And as I started to get through rehab and come out of rehab, there was nobody like me for me and my family. And so I said, when I get through rehab and I get through high school, I'm going to get my degrees in sociology and psychology in college, and I'm going to be that person for the kids that are going through a hospital, that are going through rehab, who are sick or paralyzed or going through something difficult. But I'm also going to be a motivating factor for the kids that are just going through school because they need that too. And you can definitely have a positive effect on kids and adults who aren't going through something so traumatic, but you give them something to draw back on to be positive with.
Yeah, and you definitely have made a difference, it sounds like.
And I did it for free for 7 years just because I wanted to perfect what I was doing. I wanted to know that there was a need for it. And every year I did more schools for free. And then after being sick, and then after being in the hospital and getting the books published, it was just that time to get to a professional level and, really start focusing on it and making it a profession. And so that's what we've done the last 2 years.
Okay, then, yeah, that's wonderful. So, moving on now, I know you said that you've got some medals and everything. What sports have you played over the years in the Paraolympics?
The two sports at the Paraolympics, I played wheelchair rugby in 2004 when it was in Athens, and we got the bronze medal. We had the number one team going into the Paralympics, but we played one bad game, which put us into third and fourth place. We won that, so we got the bronze medal. And then after that, I got out of the rugby program because I'm fortunate that I played wheelchair tennis at a high level. And, there's very few people who, whether you're talking about Olympics or Paralympics, there's very few people who get to make it as an Olympian. And then there's very few people who get, that pool gets smaller once you talk about the people that have medaled. And then the pool gets even smaller when you talk about the people that have competed in two different sports. And I wanted to keep pushing the bar and pushing myself. And so that's why I chose to go to wheelchair tennis for 2008 when the Paralympics were in Beijing, China. I didn't medal. I lost in the semifinals to the kid who won the gold medal. I had a match point, and I missed it, and we went into a long tie-break match, and I ended up losing that, and then didn't medal. So that was disappointing to me, but the trip overall, to compete in two different sports, to be able to hike the Great Wall in a wheelchair, and to have that experience was, life-changing, so.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So how did you train to get ready for both of these sports?
I never even really honestly dreamed about the Paraolympics. I just kept pushing myself to be a better athlete. And it came to me where a coach came to me and said, "Hey, Brent, because I was going through college, and he said, I know you're going through college. I know when you're planning on graduating. We're not happy with the team we have. We want you to try out for our team." So it was Paralympics coming to me, kind of knocking on my door, saying, we're going to give you the opportunity to have a chance to be a Paralympian. It's up to you to prepare and take advantage of that. And I share that with the kids, too, again, about being lucky, or for me, luck is defined as opportunity, and that's preparation, means preparation. And that's when I share with them, the Olympic coach gave me the opportunity to come try out. But it was up to me to prepare for those trials. If I wouldn't have prepared, I wouldn't have made the team. So I try to instill in the kids that when someone says you're lucky for getting out of the ghetto, when you're lucky for graduating and being the valedictorian, don't accept that you're lucky. It's that you took advantage of the opportunity. You were prepared and you worked hard. Whether it's a low-income school or a school that is wealthy, you still have to prepare and be willing to take advantage of those opportunities.
That is very true. Do you plan on participating again in the Paralympics in the future?
Yeah, so I just had to make that tough decision because, whether you're Olympian or Paralympian, it's very selfish. Because, we train for 4 years, and we have to train out of state as a team. And when we're training, especially for rugby, sometimes we're gone for 30 days and don't come home. So if those 30 days happen to fall on an anniversary, a honeymoon, a family reunion, a kid's birthday, you don't get to come home for those. And so it's selfish that you have to have people in your life that understand what that takes to be a Paralympian or Olympian. And it's that same selfishness that pushes me to do what I do with the kids. And so I couldn't do both. I couldn't continue to be a Paralympian and continue to do my speaking programs at the level that I want to do them. And so I kind of looked into the future, and I said 4 years from now, in 2016, if I'm standing on the platform with an Olympic medal around my neck, am I going to miss those 4 years of being with the kids? Or if I'm with kids in 4 years, am I going to miss being a Paralympian? And after a month of sleeping on it and talking to people who were neutral, it was very apparent to me that my journey now belonged into working with kids. And I wouldn't give up. I would feel like there was an empty spot in my soul if I didn't do the programs for the next 4 years. And so I just had to make a decision and call the Olympic coaches and say, sorry, I'm not going to be trying out for the Olympic teams. I feel passionate about my books. I feel passionate about having an impact on these kids. Because I understand, I'm 40. And if I'm 55, those kids are going to look at me this way. And so I have I'm giving myself a 10-year window to affect as many kids as possible.
That's great. And I think you're going to affect a lot of kids.
Yeah, I mean, we're well over hundreds of thousands already. And, just like we talked about earlier, when I get a note from a kid or an email from a mom or a phone call from a mom that says, my kid's life was changed because of what you were able to present in that day with the kids or over those multiple days. That trumps, for me anyway, comes to Paralympians. And I've been an Olympic Paralympian. I've been a two-time sport a Paralympian. I've done things that, I've left my legacy in that world. And, now I hope, to leave that same kind of lasting legacy with my books and my school programs. And if keep going the way they are, it's going to be life-changing for me and for a lot of other people.
Yeah, I believe that it's definitely going to be life-changing. So, with everything you do, who has played the biggest motivators in your life over the years?
I could go down a list of a lot of people. But I'll start with, I'll just kind of everybody, my wife, my family, all in one, have backed me from day one when I couldn't hit a tennis ball over a net, when I couldn't push my rugby chair well at all. My family was always there, taking me to practice if I wasn't driving myself, or throwing a tennis ball in the backyard and having me hit it as much as I can. Never got tired. Always traveled with me. Were always there for me. So, my family, and that's including my wife, my sister, my mom, my dad, are probably the foundation of what I do, because I could always fall back to them and know I have support. But then there's also people in the wheelchair world who I look up to. When I first got hurt, there was a guy named Rick Draney, and that's RickDraney, and he was, a few years older than me, 10 or so years older than me, and he kind of took me under his wing and showed me to break through barriers. He wasn't driving a car with a wheelchair ramp. He was driving a random truck. He was breaking down stereotypes. And so when I got older, I said, I want to do what he's doing for somebody else. And so and that was a big motivating factor for me to push myself and accomplish things that he's accomplished, but then take it to another level and even accomplish more, so that the kids coming up behind me will have something to reach for. So he was a huge motivating factor in the disabled world for me, for sure.
Wow, you definitely have had a lot of support and people to look up to, which is great.
Yes, I think that's when, I could go back to 16, the hospital had to kick people out of the hospital and said, there's no other families that could sit in the waiting room. You're laying in the hallways. We can't get through. You guys have to leave.
Oh, wow.
I would have friends that would sneak into the hospital, and I would wake up at 2 in the morning, and they would be in my room because they came through a back door. They got past security, and they just were there for me. They didn't want me to wake up and for me not to have somebody in my room. There was a girl in my life who was a friend named Heather, who for the first 30 days when I was hurt at 16, didn't go home. Her family let her miss school for the first 30 days so that I would have someone. She wasn't in my room all day long, but she was always at the hospital if I needed somebody. And so that says a lot about the friends and the family that I have.
That does.
And it continues to when I got real sick in 2010 and 2011. Between my mom, my sister, and my wife, for those 7 months, I spent one night by myself. Somebody slept on the floor. Somebody slept in the windowsill of the hospital. Someone slept in a chair in the hospital. And, not that we talked all the time, but just for me to roll over at 2 in the morning and see someone in my room just made me feel better. And I think that's why I do what I do for the kids at the hospital, and I do what I do for kids and adults through my programs. And they always ask, why do you drive all night? Or why do you sleep in your car? You drive 6 hours, and then you sleep for a couple hours at a Starbucks parking lot. And I go, because someone did it for me. And so I don't think twice about it, because I know what kind of impact it had on me, and I know I can have that same impact on others. And if people were willing to drive all night, if people were willing to sleep on floors and sleep in windowsills and sleep standing up, just do whatever needed to get done, I promised myself that I would do that for others. And I hold myself to that still.
And it makes a difference, because then when you do it for somebody, hopefully they'll return the favor for somebody else, and it's just a nice cycle.
And that's the way it works, 100%.
So, you've been faced with all these challenges and stuff, and all these opportunities you've been going on. How do you face it? How do you handle it? Whether it's something good or like when you were in the hospital, what helps you get through when you're having a problem, or when you're trying to do something great, like with all these presentations, you're going to schools and stuff. Like, how do you get through all the big, probably the mess, and try to get to the good part?
Yeah. How do I get through it? I get through it because of the love I get back from people that I present with, whether it's a principal. I just did an after-school program recently, and the principal happened to walk in, and he walked up to the director and said, "How come he's not presenting for my whole school? I've been listening to this guy for 20 minutes, and I want him here for 2 or 3 days with my whole campus." And the director, "Well, I tried to talk to you, but you just weren't getting it." And so the feedback that I get from the kids, from the parents, from the administrators, from, like I say, whether it's bakers, I just spoke at a PTA convention, the National PTA Convention, all adults, and the hugs, the tears, the emotion, I know what I'm doing is true to me, and it reaches other people and has an impact. And as long as I can continue to have that impact, I will continue to do it. And the example I'll give you is another recent one. I got told that this class down in Southern California was using me as their author of the year, and they were researching me, and they wrote me questions, and so the teacher got a hold of me with another parent, and I was going to surprise the kids and come to their class without them knowing it. So the teacher had to leave the room and go do something in the computer lab, and then I came in the room, they got all set up, and the kids had no idea I was there. And when they opened the door and saw me there, it was just electric. And so as the kids are walking in, I'll never forget this. High fives, and oh my God, I can't believe Mr. Poppen's in our room, and we thought we were just going to be writing him an email, but he's really here, and this is the best day ever. And a boy walked up to me and said, "Can I ask you a question, Mr. Poppen?" He goes, "But you're probably not going to want to do it." I go, "Well, you'll be surprised at what I'll do." And he says, "I just want to give you a big hug."
Aww.
And, I said, "Are you kidding? I'll take that in 1 second." And after I gave him a hug, then all of a sudden, 31 other hugs came. And that day when I left, the teacher said, "I've been teaching for a very, very long time. I've had a lot of people come in my room and present and do different things. Never has a kid that didn't know somebody walk up to them and ask them if they could give them a hug. There's something very, very special about how you connect with these kids." And, I'm very humble and appreciative, but yet take it very, very seriously. And if an hour-long program goes into 3 hours, so be it. It makes zero difference. If I got to get up early in the morning and drive across California, or going to drive to a different state, or get on an airplane, I don't blink twice, because I know there's going to be moments like that. And there's moments like that at every school.
That's
I think when you're asking how do I face it, I face it because it's I already know the end result. And when a lot of organizations or schools, when they hear, we're going to spend it's a lot of, it's not cheap to have, it's not expensive in the world of what people do, but it's not cheap. And they, I get it when a principal says, "Well, how is a quadriplegic guy in a wheelchair going to affect my kids, and we're going to pay them this money?" Because they don't have anything to draw from. And I'm in a meeting with this principal, and I'm saying, I already know the end result. I've done it for 175,000 kids. I know at the end of 2 days, you're going to thank me for being here. And you're going to tell me, you know what, Brent? I almost didn't have you come, and our kids would have missed out on an important opportunity. And how do I know that? Because hundreds of thousands of other people have told me that. So the frustrating part for me is I know the end result, and I'm confident that we're going to change lives. And it's up to me, when a teacher or an organization is on the fence, it's up to me to convince them to believe in me that we will have an impact. Even though you don't understand it because you don't know anybody in a wheelchair, you don't have a foundation to draw from. But if you just trust me, please, I will give you all your money back if at the end of 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, you don't think every dime was worth what you spent. And of course, I have schools that I spoke with this year. The principal telling me, we're going to have you back next year, and I want you to do the exact same thing you did. I don't care if the kids hear it twice. They can hear it 100 times, but you're changing lives. So we're going to have you back next year, and we're going to have you do the same program. And so it's stuff like that where when people get it, they get it. And it's not, and I don't want to downplay anyone that does programs, but I'm not an in-and-out type of guy. The kids will continue to hear from me. The staff will continue to hear from me. And it's something very, very meaningful. And when I go back to school months later or the next year, and I pop by a class and I ask them about my presentation, every single time those kids are able to tell me the details that I talked about. And that's what's special to me because they're not for me to do.
No, it's really staying with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else that you want to add?
What I like to add, obviously, I can't do it by myself. I can't do it for free any longer. So, I got to take 1, 2, 3, 4 days off work at Children's Hospital. And I'm fortunate that Children's Hospital in Fresno, my bosses understand the impact I have, and they tell me whenever you get an opportunity, you take it. So I owe a big blessing to Children's Hospital for allowing me and understanding the impact I have on other people outside of the hospital and giving me the freedom to miss a week of work, 2 days of work, whatever it is. I owe a big thanks to Lane Davis and the Straight Publishing. They saw something in me over a year ago and said, we want to get behind you. And like I said before, I'm definitely out of the box. I'm in a wheelchair, I'm disabled, I do disabled sports. I bring my sport wheelchairs, whether it's basketball, rugby, or tennis. I bring them for the kids so they can play them throughout the day and give them a tangible experience. And so it's very, very different. And I know it's different because if I do a 2-day program, the mom or dad will hear about me on the first night and then come the next morning and go, okay, we just got to meet you because our kid was talking about this amazing man and talking about wheelchair sports, about knocking people out of chairs and tennis and rugby. We have no idea what he's talking about. And so it's exciting to me that kids come home with so much excitement and passion that the parents will come the next day just to understand what the kids are going through and what they're talking about that next day. And so that's partly a big thanks, like I say, to Lane Davis and the Straight Publishing. And we're looking to go out of state. We're looking to come to Pittsburgh, which would be phenomenal.
Oh, yes. It would be amazing if you could come here.
It would be amazing. We have, we're going to Arizona and Idaho and Texas. I would love to put Pittsburgh on the map. And it gets expensive when you're, flying out of town and all that kind of stuff. I can promise anyone that's listening to this that they will feel whatever they spent was well worth, and they would have spent twice as much to get the same result. And so I try to do it at a level where, I don't lose money, but I'm still able to make it affordable to the schools and the organizations that want to have me in, because I do feel it's a message that everyone needs to hear, whether you're a kindergartner, a principal, a banker, CEO. Everyone needs to hear that story of triumph through tragedy, which is what my autobiography, obviously, the title, is all about. So I appreciate everybody who's backed me. We're having sponsors get on board now for schools next year, that inner city schools especially, that said we don't have the money to pay for you. I already have sponsors lined up to say, you know what, we'll take care of it, because we understand the message. So if you need us to pay for you to go to this school, just give us a call and we'll pay for it. And so when people believe in you like that, you just know you're on the road to do something special. So I appreciate everybody that's willing to be on Team Brent and step up and know when they sponsor a program, that they're changing people's lives. So, and they can get a hold of me through my website, which is www.booksbybrent.com, or the last name, first name, Poppen, Poppen, Brent, BRENT @gmail.com. And I will definitely respond to the emails and messages I get. So I appreciate you as one of the people who are willing to take your hour out of the day and understand that that we're making a difference in this world, one kid at a time. And for me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and thank you so much for talking with me. I know this is going to be great for the Duquesne community and even the whole Pittsburgh community to hear.
Well, like I say, I love it, and I no BS. I'm a huge Steelers fan. I'm wearing a Steelers hat and a Steelers hoodie as we talk. And the kids always laugh at me because I'm always in my Steelers hoodie when I speak. So it's a dream for me to come to any community and work with their kids, but it would definitely be special to come to a community that I already have an affinity for and support on my own.
I know. I really hope you can, because it would just be amazing for you to come to this town and city and just for everyone to hear it, hear your story.
I have good vibes. My glass is usually not half full. My glass is usually completely full. And I think next year we're going to cross into your guys' borders, and I'm sure you'll be involved with it through Lane and Astray and publishing, and we'll know all the details, and I'm sure we'll all work together in some way.
Oh, I hope so. I would love to be able to meet with you in person.
Yeah, we'll definitely make that happen, Amanda, and I appreciate your time. All right, thanks, Pittsburgh.